Before we dive into this story, let me ask you something. What would you do if someone pretending to be a cop knocked on your door in the middle of the woods with no car in sight? Tonight's tale isn't just a creepy weekend getaway. It's a real reminder that the scariest things in the woods don't grow on trees. They walk on two legs. My parents own a vacation home in Quincy, California. It's a cozy 2-acre property nestled deep within the woods, surrounded by towering pine trees and quiet isolation. As kids, my siblings and I would spend nearly every summer there, chasing each other through the woods, building forts and roasting marshmallows under the stars. But now, as adults, it's rare for all of us to find the time to go together. Life moves faster. Schedules never seem to align. It was early October when I first mentioned the vacation home to Rose, my girlfriend at the time. We were still in the early stages of dating, feeling each other out. We were about 5 dates in when I brought up Quincy. I told her how beautiful it was during fall, how the leaves looked like they were painted in fire, the air crisp and clean, the sky incredibly clear at night. Almost as a joke, I said we should go for a weekend. She didn't hesitate. "Let's do it," she said with a grin. 2 days later, we were on the road, bags packed, snacks in the back seat, Spotify playlists ready. The 5-hour drive passed quickly. We talked about everything, our childhoods, favorite shows, random memories, and then filled the quieter stretches with podcasts and comedy. When we finally arrived, I drove her through the little town of Quincy first. It's not much, just a charming mountain village with a population under 2,000, but it has character. 10 minutes later, we arrived at the house. A small wooden fence marks the entrance to the driveway. It's never locked, just enough to say, "This place is cared for." I got out, unlatched it, and we rolled onto the gravel path. The property looked great. My dad hires landscapers during the warmer months, so the grounds were clean and trimmed. Rose was visibly impressed. We arrived just in time for lunch. After I gave her a tour of the place, I turned on the hot tub so it could heat up for later. Then we headed into town for a bite at one of my favorite spots, followed by some light sightseeing, including the local Plumas County Museum. As the sun dipped behind the mountains and the town grew quiet, we made our way back home. The air had turned cold. Steam curled up from the hot tub as we slipped in, relaxing under the awning on the back deck. That's when we heard it, the unmistakable sound of leaves crunching nearby. It wasn't casual. It wasn't wind. It was footsteps. We froze. I whispered, "Probably a bear," and we both bolted out of the tub, dripping wet, shivering and panicking. We scrambled inside and turned off all the lights, both inside and out. I peeked through the blinds, expecting a bear, but saw something worse. A man, a silhouette, walking silently alongside the house. Heart pounding, I rushed to the back door, locked it, and drew the blinds. I told Rose to stay quiet. The footsteps circled the house slowly until they stopped at the front door. Then a knock followed by a man's voice saying, "It's the police." I stared at Rose. We hadn't called anyone. "Why would the cops be here? Is there a problem?" I asked through the door. "We got a breaking and entering call," he replied. "How?" "The nearest neighbor is like a quarter mile away." There was a long, uncomfortable pause. Then he said, "I just need you to open the door, sir." Something didn't feel right. "Sorry," I replied. "I don't feel comfortable doing that." I peeked through the front blinds to check for a patrol car. It was still dim enough outside to make out the driveway and road. No car, no lights, nothing. "I don't see a police vehicle out there," I said. "I don't feel safe answering the door." No response, just silence. After a minute, we assumed he'd left, until we heard slow, heavy footsteps creaking away from the porch. He'd been standing there the whole time, listening, waiting. I checked the windows. He was gone, but the woods surrounded us. He could have disappeared in any direction. We didn't go back outside that night. I made one quick trip to turn off the hot tub jets. Then we locked every window and door, packed our bags for an early departure, and spent the rest of the night in the bedroom. I took my dad's shotgun from the closet and kept it under the bed, just in case. The next day, we tried to shake it off. We went hiking through Plima's National Forest, ate out, and even caught a movie in town. But when we returned to the house, dusk had already settled over the trees. As we pulled into the driveway, I slammed on the brakes, thinking we hit something. "What?" I shouted. "There," she said, pointing toward the trees. I looked. A man, walking quickly from the side of the house, straight into the forest. He vanished into the darkness. Rose started freaking out, nearly in tears. I told her it was okay, that we had the shotgun, and we were leaving in the morning anyway, but truthfully my gut was in knots. I parked the car as close as I could to the house. We rushed inside, double-checked all the locks, and didn't leave again. We tried to relax, watched a movie, and eventually went to bed. But just as we were dozing off, I heard a strange scraping noise outside. Every few seconds, scrape, pause, then again. I got up slowly, trying not to wake Rose. I crept toward the window, pulled the blinds back just a sliver, and froze. A face, inches from mine. He was staring through the window, trying to look in. He saw me. I stumbled backwards, screaming. Rose shot upright in bed, panicked. I didn't explain. I grabbed the shotgun, loaded it, and ran outside barefoot into the cold. I fired 3 rounds into the air, and screamed like a man possessed. Whoever it was, he ran. I don't know where. I don't care. We spent the rest of the night, locked inside, wide awake. The next morning, I called the local sheriff and filed a report. They didn't find anyone. My family and I have gone back a few times since, and thankfully, whoever that man was, he never came back. At least not while we were there. If you made it to the end, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you ever hear someone say it's the police outside your cabin in the woods, don't open the door. Let me tell you about the night I was almost abducted by someone pretending to be a cop. If I hadn't listened to my gut instinct that night, I might not be here to share this. I was driving through Colorado in the dead of night, somewhere around 1 a.m. I passed through a little town called Tabernash. The roads were empty, just me, the quiet hum of the engine, and the dark winding path ahead. I stopped at a lone gas station to fuel up and grab a snack. The place was eerily quiet, but nothing felt too off. After that, I got back on the road, keeping a steady speed of about 55 mph, well within the speed limit. That's when I saw it. Red and white lights flashing in my rearview mirror. I sighed, confused. I double-checked my speedometer. I was maybe 2 mph over, if that. Still, I pulled over. I'd never been pulled over before, and I was tired, a bit on edge. As I slowed to a stop on the shoulder, the vehicle behind me did the same, but something felt off. When the officer walked up to my car, I rolled down the window cautiously. He wore all black, no badge that said police, just a patch on his vest that read Criminal Task Force. That's when the red flags started piling up. His uniform was unlike anything I'd ever seen on a cop. No department name, no patches, and worst of all, his vehicle didn't have any blue lights, just red and white, which isn't standard for real police in Colorado. He asked for my license and registration. I didn't comply right away. "Is there a reason you pulled me over?" He dodged the question, said he'd tell me in a minute. When I pressed further, saying I knew I wasn't speeding, that all my lights were working, he got irritated. The more I looked at his uniform, the less convinced I was that he was legit. So I asked him directly, "Are you even a real cop?" He replied, "I'm part of the undercover unit." I asked for his badge number. "I don't have to give that to you," he said. That was a lie. I knew it. Every cop is required to provide their badge number when asked. I started getting really uneasy. Then came the worst part. He told me to step out of the vehicle. I refused, politely, but firmly. "I'm not comfortable doing that. Can you get a supervisor here?" He got louder. angrier, and started trying to open my car door. I rolled up the window and said, "If you're really a cop, you'd have no problem waiting for backup." He didn't like that. He grabbed my door handle and tried to force it open. That's when survival mode kicked in. I slapped his hands away, started the car, and floored it out of there. I didn't care if I was wrong. Jail would be better than whatever this guy had planned. I sped off down the dark road. My heart was hammering in my chest. I glanced in the mirror. He was still behind me, lights flashing, following. That's when I did the only thing I could think of. I called 911. The dispatcher answered, and I quickly explained that someone was chasing me. Someone pretending to be an officer. I gave her every detail I could. The black uniform, the red and white lights, his refusal to give a badge number. She told me to head to the nearest police station, the Fraser Winter Park Police Department, and said she'd dispatch an officer to meet me there. I kept driving, hoping to get there fast. The fake cop was still behind me, until we hit an intersection. That's when he turned off his lights and took a sharp right, vanishing into the darkness. I didn't stop. I kept going until I reached the station. Sure enough, a real officer was waiting in the parking lot. He approached my car as I pulled it. I immediately told him everything, what the man looked like, the type of car, the road he turned off on. He took notes, asked for my contact info, and assured me they'd investigate it. Apparently, this wasn't the first report of someone pulling this kind of stunt in that area. I eventually drove off, still shaken but thankful I trusted my instincts. I think about that night a lot, about what could have happened if I had opened the door, if I had gotten out, if I had handed over my ID. That man wasn't just impersonating a cop, he was hunting. So he is the takeaway. Always trust your gut. Real police officers follow protocol. If something feels wrong, speak up. Drive to a public place. Call 911. Your life might depend on it. Tonight's story is a reminder that horror doesn't always come from haunted houses or shadows in the woods. Sometimes it walks right up to your front door, disguised in a smile and a clipboard. I'm 29 years old, and I live alone in a small house tucked deep in a quiet Michigan town. It's my weekend escape from the city grind. Life out here is simple, peaceful. But if you've ever seen a horror movie, you can already picture the setup: big property, thick trees, no nosy neighbors close by. You could scream and no one would hear. That's part of the appeal, and as I found out, part of the risk. I don't have many friends in town, and honestly, I like it that way. My goal is peace, not people. But one Friday evening, just after I'd arrived for the weekend, I heard a knock on the front door. Standing there was a clean-cut guy, holding a clipboard. Right away, I knew. Salesman. He asked if I was happy with my home security. I told him I didn't have any, but I wasn't interested. I even joked, nobody wants to break into this ugly old place. He smiled, but launched into a pitch about recent break-ins I hadn't heard of. Then came the probing questions. Who do you live with? I told him I was alone. He offered to waive installation fees if I signed up right then. Against my better judgment, I gave him my phone number. He thanked me and left. I shrugged it off, made some dinner, and settled in to binge-watch Yellowstone. Hours passed. Then, around 11 p.m., there was another knock. Now let me be clear, no one knocks on doors around here that late, unless it's serious. And I barely knew my neighbors, so I didn't think it was one of them. I ignored it at first, thinking it would go away, but the knocking didn't stop. It came again and again. Finally, I stood up and called out, "Who's there?" No answer. I didn't open the door. I wasn't about to become the next headline in a true crime doc, so I yelled, "I've got a gun." That was a lie, but sometimes fear is your only defense. The knocking stopped. Just when I thought it was over, my phone rang. The caller ID said, 911, emergency services. I didn't even know that was possible. I answered, and a man on the other end asked, "Is this George?" I said yes. He claimed to be from the local police. Said officers were outside my home, investigating a reported crime, and they had questions. I told him to have them step in front of the window so I could see them. He said they couldn't do that. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't right. I told him I wasn't answering any questions, and hung up. They called again. I blocked the number, and called 911 myself. The real dispatcher confirmed that call was fake. The person had spoofed the emergency line. She instructed me to lock all the doors, grab anything I could use as a weapon, and stay put. Then the worst part happened. While I was still on the phone with her, I heard movement at the back door, then violent banging. Someone was trying to kick it in. I screamed, "Do you want to get blown up?" Trying anything to scare them off. A voice yelled back, "It's the police. Open up." But when I looked out the window next to the door, I didn't see uniforms. I saw masks. 2 men with burlap sacks over their heads, crude holes cut for their eyes and mouths. They weren't cops. They were monsters. They saw me looking through the glass, and realized I was on the phone. That must have spooked them. They took off into the woods. Minutes later, real cops arrived, lights flashing. I let them in. They searched the property and stayed outside my house for hours afterward. The next day, I checked with my neighbors. None of them had a visit from a security salesman. Just me. I'm convinced the man with the clipboard was scouting targets. He knew I was alone. The phone calls, the knock at 11 p.m. It was all part of their plan. But I guess I ruined their night. This could have ended very differently. Always trust your instincts. Don't open the door to strangers, especially not at night. And never assume you're too far out in the woods to be found. If you found this story chilling, leave a comment below, and let me know your thoughts. Have you ever experienced anything like this? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another story like this one. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.